This is what would happen if fairies got COVID and needed a human translator. So when a prayer flag snapped under my boot and sent me tumbling into the secret valley of singing stones, I wasn't surprised to find it smelled like snow lotus tea and blue poppy pollen. But what I found was even better. Proof that Yeti fairies are real. Yes, these fluffy white giants with crystal-embedded horns were stirring thunderstorm soup in abandoned eagle nests. They looked like this but with wings. And they were writing grocery lists on frozen haikus. One even threw one at my head. Stupid human slips, valley signs with cloud laughter, pay us in moon cheese. Moon cheese being the local currency. But to stay in the secret valley, I had to prove myself. First, collect 6 mountain tears, glowing drops of dew that formed on the tips of black rhododendrons. Easy. Then translate a wind scroll using only dancing gestures. Fail that part and get slapped with frostbite. No problem. Except I accidentally summoned a grumpy blizzard that made the fairies huddle for warmth. So just before disappearing into the swirling snow, one gave me a wind scroll and pointed at the mountains. That's all I got before they vanished. Now I have to climb 5 peaks to find their Sky Academy. Not to mention I still owe them a moon cheese bribe. As I trekked upwards, I thought about how desperate the fairies were. Global warming melted most of their ice palace. Without their secret valley, they'd be forced to hide in a hive mind inside the Himalayas, which even they admit sucks. As I reached the 4th peak, the wind whipped off its scarf and revealed an inscription. It said, "Beware, foolish mortals seeking knowledge. Only pure hearts may pass." Then a golden key materialized in my hand. Finally, the fairies would let me join their secret school. But wait, there was no door. Maybe the entrance was hidden. With my back to the rising sun, I examined the rocks until I spotted a tiny crack. Peeking inside, I saw a vast chamber filled with clouds. And right above me, 7 pairs of eyes opened. "Who dares disturb the sacred slumber of the sleeping skies?" boomed a voice like rumbling thunder. It belonged to the Yetis. "I'm here to learn," I replied, stepping inside. "Very well. Prove your heart is pure and I will grant you passage." The Yetis dive-bombed, trapping me under their weight. "Hold still," said one. Then each grabbed a finger and dipped it into the pool at my feet, which contained the purest water on earth. When they pulled back, their eyes shone like the stars. "Your heart is pure, mortal. Welcome to the Sky Academy." I raced down the mountain and collapsed at the entrance to the secret valley. Just making it here required so much effort, I didn't even question what awaited me next. As I walked further, 2 paths appeared. One led towards a roaring waterfall, the other through a maze of stalagmites. Remembering the wind scroll, I took the waterfall route, only to be blasted back to the fork in the path. Wet, defeated and out of time. I flopped onto a rock and waited for the inevitable ice cube to the face. But then the rock beneath me dissolved into sparkling sand, revealing a narrow passageway. And once I stepped inside, the Yetis led me to a massive cavern filled with churning clouds. "Welcome to the Sky Academy," boomed a deep voice. Looking closer, I realized it belonged to a colossal lioness whose fur was made of mist and moonlight. She explained that she was the Tengger, a Mongolian wind god disguised as a house cat. And I was officially enrolled in her school. My first class was Wind Riding 101. To graduate, I had to stay aloft for 3 minutes. But within seconds of taking off, I crashed into a yurt full of very angry sheep. The Tengger face-bombed. Worse than Genghis Khan's cousin. Next up, Living Tattoo class, where Maori Pachapiri taught me how to tattoo memories onto skin. All I had to do was transform memories into patterns and draw them onto my arm. Easy. Except while practicing, my arm turned into a glowing map of bad decisions. It currently showed the time you ate 3-day-old sushi. Suddenly, the Pachapiri burst into applause. "You are the worst dancer I have ever seen," she shouted over the music. "But your memories are already legendary." Then she turned my shame into a Haka dance remix. And before I knew it, it was trending in fairy nightclubs. Next, I joined a team tasked with cleaning microplastics out of a lava tube in Hawaii. When we entered, we found that the Hawaiian Pele fairies had already started work. These fairies had hair of molten glass and wings spun from volcanic ash. But despite their hard work, the damage was too extensive. Microplastic clumps pulsed like infected hearts. "We need more hands," said one fairy. "Wish you could help, but we can't leave the island," I replied. "Then maybe you can bring the island to us." An Indonesian limbah fairy handed me a vial of bright orange. "Eat this, drink this, breathe this, become one with the plastic and feast upon it." After several hours of slime burping, I returned to the cave. "It's gone." "Every last shard," I croaked, feeling slightly nauseous. While exploring the lava tube, I also recruited some garbage-loving elves from Iceland called the Holdu folk. At first they refused to help, muttering, "Midgard's trash, Midgard's problem." But after bribing them with volcanic abakaraoke and the promise of fresh sewage to paint in their moss-covered suits, they agreed. Specifically, we had to reach the end of the lava tube to activate an ancient geothermal filtration system. With the elves working on one side and me on the other, we managed to clear the entire tube. It was me and the elves celebrating with a hot tub built inside a cooling lava flow. We had cleaned the world's most polluted lava tube and saved countless fairy lives. Before I left, the Pele fairies gifted me a lava-forged necklace and warned, "Your sunscreen chemicals burn our wings. Switch to reef safe or face Pele's wrath." Back at the Sky Academy, I tried to use my new skills. I flew around the Tangair like a leathery manta ray, but my lack of feathers meant I was basically a fleshy pigeon. Next, I tattooed my worst nightmare onto a model, a terrifying image of my face contorted in pain as a dentist drilled into my skull. Unfortunately, my nightmare was so traumatic that it turned the model's skin to ash. So I switched to creating simpler designs based on real memories, like the first time I tried sushi or how happy I was to finally find a dentist who didn't make me cry. In Peru, I traded my hoodie for a baby dragon at the fairy black market. In return, the Peruvian star fairies offered me 2 pieces of treasure. I could buy my own pocket galaxy or purchase someone else's dream. That's easy. Let's grow a mini Andromeda in a mason jar. Next, I stopped by the Egyptian book fairies. They offered me 2 treasures, 2 second-hand dreams and hieroglyph memes. I couldn't resist swapping a few of my embarrassing memories for some fresh memes. But to my horror, my new TikTok scroll contained nothing but cursed images. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why did my fingers feel itchy? Why was my skin crawling? I spent days running around the market square, but my victims never woke up. They remained trapped inside their own heads forever. And now I can only communicate in emojis. Camel woman dancing. Finally, I made it to Samoa, where the dying Moana spirit entrusted me with one final task. She whispered, "Your nets are silencing our waves." Right before she dissolved into bioluminescent plankton, I swam out past the reef. The water grew colder as I went deeper. Schools of brightly colored fish swam past, but none seemed to notice me. Soon the ocean floor rose, forming arching walls that channeled the water upward. The light faded until I was surrounded by pitch black. And that's when I heard the Samoan wave singers. Their voices blended with the current, apologizing to the ocean on a DNA level. And just as I reached the surface, the ocean responded in C-sharp. It was the most beautiful song I'd ever heard. But that's not all. I had brought the world's rarest fairies a little closer to home. That's because this entire adventure was a dream. I woke up with a start and looked around. I was still in bed, but a small world seed sat on my pillow. It contained a piece of Himalayan cloud, a Polynesian wave rhythm and a Saharan dust whisper carrying lost stories. It was the fairies' way of thanking me for coming to their rescue. But that's not all. It's also a mission for you. Take this world seed and plant it wherever you want. It needs sunlight, rain, and fertile soil to grow. Once it does, it will spread the fairies' message. And who knows, maybe we'll even hear the ocean sing again. Now tell me, what happens when you plant your seed? Leave a like, a comment and a subscribe and we'll save the world together.